Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to Midnight Affairs Tales. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know what part of the world you are watching from right now. Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story, Chapter 1. The storm outside was nothing compared to the storm breaking inside Logan Price's chest. He stood in the narrow kitchen of his Denver home, dripping wet in full Army Ranger uniform, boots caked in mud, backpack still slung over one shoulder. His heart pounded against his ribs like it was trying to warn him of something he had not seen coming. He had been gone for 8 months, deployed, fighting for a country that now felt like a lie. And now he was back home, 2 weeks earlier than expected, ready to surprise his wife, Tessa, and their 5-year-old son, Caleb. But it was Logan who got the surprise. The small house was filled with the cozy smell of cinnamon candles and fresh coffee. It looked exactly the way he had left it, except for one detail. A voice echoed from the living room. Caleb's voice, high and excited as he showed someone his drawings. "Look, Uncle Brett. Mommy says you are my real daddy now." Silence. Heavy. Crushing. Logan froze mid-step. His mind could not process what he had just heard. Surely he had misheard. Surely Caleb meant something else. He inched forward, boots creaking on the hardwood. Through the open doorway, he saw them. Tessa, laughing nervously, brushing a hand through her messy hair, and Brett Holloway, a smug-faced man from their neighborhood, sitting on his couch, holding his son. No, not his son. Tessa's voice was low but clear. "Chill, honey. You are not supposed to tell anyone yet." Brett grinned, completely at ease. "It is okay, Tess. It is just Logan. He will be gone again soon enough." The room blurred at the edges. Logan's fists clenched at his sides until his knuckles turned white. But he said nothing. Not yet. His hands were shaking, but his mind was cold. Calculating. How long had they been lying? How deep did this betrayal go? The storm outside cracked a thunderbolt across the sky as Logan Price took one step back, silent, unnoticed. He was not going to scream. He was not going to fight. He was going to destroy them. "Wait, can I share something personal with you? You've made it this far into the video, which tells me something powerful. You're actually enjoying this story. But here's what's crazy. Many of you watch, feel every twist, every emotion, but forget to hit subscribe. I've set a dream goal, 10,000 subscribers. It's bold. It's big. And you, yes, you watching right now, can help make it happen. If you don't subscribe now, you might miss the next plot twist, the next betrayal, the next karma-filled revenge. So here it is. This is the moment. Tap subscribe. Turn on the bell. Be part of the journey. And when we hit 5,000 subscribers, I've got something special waiting just for you. Now, let's dive back into the story. Logan locked himself inside his truck, parked 2 streets away, rain pounding against the roof like gunfire. He gripped the steering wheel until it groaned under the pressure. He wanted to storm back inside, tear Brett apart with his bare hands, drag Tessa through every piece of betrayal she had planted. But he knew better. That would only make him look like the monster. No, he needed to be smarter than that. He leaned his head against the cold window, breathing hard, staring blankly at the windshield as lightning ripped across the night sky. Tessa had called Brett Daddy in front of Caleb, in his house, after his deployments, after his sacrifices. And Caleb, that sweet boy he had raised, loved, protected, was not even his. It hit him like a bullet through the heart. For a few minutes, all he could do was sit there and bleed in silence. Then he started thinking. There were cracks in their lies. Overconfidence. Stupidity. Tessa had always been reckless when she thought she had won. Logan opened the glove box and pulled out a small, battered notebook. His deployment journal. He flipped to a blank page and started writing. Not words of rage, but names, dates, events. Evidence. He would need it all. Every slip-up. Every proof of betrayal. He was not just going to expose them. He was going to bury them. And the first step? Pretend nothing had changed. Pretend he was still the clueless, loyal husband who trusted his wife. Logan wiped his face with the sleeve of his uniform, and took a deep breath, steadying his racing heart. He would give them enough rope to hang themselves. All he had to do was stay quiet. For now, he looked out into the rain-soaked streets, a grim smile cutting across his face. "You will not even see it coming," he whispered. The next morning, Logan walked through the front door like nothing had happened. Tessa jumped to her feet, fake smile plastered across her face. Caleb came running, arms wide open, shouting, "Daddy!" Logan knelt and scooped him up, hiding the crack of heartbreak tearing through his chest. He hugged the boy tightly, breathing in the scent of his hair, fighting the urge to cry. Tessa moved in for a kiss. Logan brushed past her casually, setting Caleb down. "Got back early. Wanted to surprise you," he said, voice steady as steel. "Surprise," Tessa said, laugh brittle. Brett was not there, of course. Coward. Only slithered in when he thought it was safe. Over the next few days, Logan watched them carefully. Tessa was nervous at first, but slowly, she relaxed. She thought he knew nothing. She started going out more often. Secret phone calls in the bathroom. Smiling at texts she pretended were from friends. Logan played the part of the tired, trusting husband perfectly. Meanwhile, he collected everything. Receipts, credit card bills, surveillance footage from a buddy who ran private security, GPS logs from her car, phone records. Every night, after Tessa fell asleep, Logan sat at the kitchen table, piecing the puzzle together under the dim light of a single bulb. It was worse than he thought. Brett was not just a fling. He was involved in shady insurance scams, money laundering, fraud, and Tessa was tangled up in it, up to her neck. Logan realized this was no longer just about betrayal. It was about crime. And now, he had something much bigger than heartbreak on his side. He did not just want revenge anymore. He wanted justice. And he was going to make damn sure they paid. Every single penny. Every morning became a performance. Logan woke up before sunrise, brewed coffee like nothing was wrong, kissed Tessa's cheek lightly, and played with Caleb before breakfast. He smiled through gritted teeth, his stomach churning every time he watched Tessa's phone light up with messages she quickly tucked away. The mask had to stay on. One morning, Tessa lingered at the kitchen counter, pretending to scroll through recipes. Logan caught the reflection of her screen in the microwave door, a text flashing in bold letters. "Brett, cannot wait for tonight." Same hotel. Tessa's fingers danced quickly over the keyboard. She thought she was clever. She thought Logan was still the fool who trusted her with everything. He set his coffee mug down a little harder than he meant to. The sharp clink echoed in the kitchen. Tessa jumped slightly, then gave him a sweet, fake smile. "You okay, babe?" she asked. Logan smiled back, slow and easy. "Just tired. Long flight." Tessa nodded, relief flickering across her face. That night, after Caleb fell asleep, Logan watched from the corner of the bedroom as Tessa slipped into tight jeans and a low-cut blouse she never wore for him anymore. She sprayed perfume, the expensive bottle he had bought for their anniversary, and checked her makeup twice before leaving the house. Logan waited 15 minutes. Then he followed her. From a safe distance, he watched her meet Brett in a seedy motel parking lot across town. They kissed openly under a flickering street lamp, laughing like teenagers. Logan stayed hidden in the shadows, phone in hand, camera clicking quietly. Picture after picture. He was not rushing. He was building a noose. And when it tightened, it would leave no room for escape. The war had started, and Logan Price was done playing nice. Days turned into weeks, and Logan played his role perfectly. He became the doting husband again, offering to fix things around the house, cooking dinner, even surprising Tessa with flowers once, the same kind she used to love when she was still pretending to care. The guilt must have gnawed at her. Some days she clung to him a little longer than normal. Other days she snapped at nothing, her nerves fraying at the edges. Logan watched it all with quiet satisfaction. Meanwhile, he dug deeper. One evening, while Tessa showered, Logan picked the lock on her filing cabinet, the one she insisted was just for work stuff. Inside, he found insurance papers, weird offshore bank statements, and a burner phone tucked inside a plain manila envelope. He scrolled through the texts. Brett, once we move the last batch of money, we can finally ditch the loser. Tessa, Logan is clueless. He is just good for the cover story. After that, we are free. Logan's jaw tightened so hard it ached. They were not just cheating. They were planning to gut him financially and vanish. Tessa came out of the bathroom, towel wrapped and humming. Logan slid everything back into place and smiled at her from across the room. Long shower, he said casually. Needed it, she replied, ruffling her hair with the towel. He studied her, the easy lies, the casual cruelty, and felt no love left. Only purpose. He was going to take everything they thought they had stolen, piece by piece. And when he was done, they would not just lose him. They would lose everything. Logan's first real ally came from an unexpected place. Ben Travers, an old ranger buddy who now worked private security and cyber investigations. They met in a dingy bar on the outskirts of town, cheap neon lights buzzing overhead. What you are asking for, it is personal, Ben asked, sipping his beer. Logan nodded, ice cold. Personal. Very. Ben leaned back in his chair, studying him. Tell me everything. By the time Logan finished, the betrayal, the fraud, the lies, Ben's face had hardened into a look Logan remembered from war zones. I will get you everything you need. Evidence. Bank trails. You name it. But Logan, Ben paused, voice dropping low. Once you pull the pin on this, there is no going back. Logan looked him dead in the eyes. There is nothing left to go back to. Within days, Ben delivered. Hidden accounts. Stolen funds. Emails linking Tessa and Brett to bigger players. Shady real estate scams. Fake insurance claims. Bribed city inspectors. It was not just betrayal. It was organized crime. And Tessa was in it deep. Logan pieced the data together like a bomb technician. Carefully. Meticulously. No mistakes. He even planted fake conversations, casual accidental mentions of financial audits or missing paperwork, to watch Tessa squirm. Every slip of fear in her voice, every dart of her eyes, confirmed it. They knew something was coming. They just did not know it was him. Logan was no longer just fighting for his pride. He was fighting to destroy a rotten empire built on his back. And he would not stop until the graves were dug, the secrets exposed, and the guilty stripped bare under the blinding light of justice. Logan worked methodically, day and night. Ben had unearthed a goldmine of evidence, but Logan knew evidence alone was not enough. He needed the right moment, the right strike. Sitting at the kitchen table, pretending to browse job listings, Logan covertly recorded another conversation between Tessa and Brett over a hacked call. Brett's voice crackled through the tiny earpiece hidden under Logan's cap. You sure he will not catch on? I mean, he is back early. What if he gets suspicious? Tessa laughed. That cold, hollow laugh Logan used to think was charming. Logan is a good soldier, but he is dumb when it comes to love. He will never see it coming. Logan smiled grimly. You are wrong, Tessa. He leaned back in his chair, pretending to sip coffee as he tapped a note into his phone. Phase 2. Paternity fraud exposure. Step by step, he built the trap. First, he visited Caleb's pediatrician under the pretext of updating military records. Calmly, professionally, he requested a DNA paternity test, citing necessary updates for government insurance. No drama. No alarm bells. A week later, the envelope arrived. Logan sat alone in his truck, the paper trembling in his hands. 0% probability of paternity. He had suspected it, known it, but seeing it in black and white ripped a fresh hole through his chest. He closed his eyes, letting the pain wash over him like a tidal wave. Then he folded the report neatly and slid it into a fireproof folder labeled War Chest. Tessa thought she had married a man who would take a bullet and never fight back. She was about to find out what happened when you betrayed a man who had already died 100 times on foreign soil and come back stronger. Logan needed Tessa and Brett to bury themselves deeper. He started laying subtle traps. At dinner one night, he casually mentioned, got a call from an old buddy. He is looking into some shady insurance companies. Claims fraud, embezzlement, stuff like that. Tessa froze mid-bite. It was so slight most people would not notice, but Logan caught it instantly. Her fork paused half an inch from her mouth, eyes flickering for a split second. Then she recovered, smiling tightly. Wow. Hope they catch the bad guys. Logan just smiled and sipped his drink. Good. Panic. Make mistakes. Over the next week, Logan planted more seeds, suggesting he was looking to refinance the house, asking to see joint bank accounts, pretending to question minor expenses. Tessa grew tense. She started snapping at Caleb more, drinking wine earlier in the afternoons, taking more business calls outside on the porch. Meanwhile, Brett became sloppier too. Ben sent Logan pictures, Brett flashing cash at poker games, showing off a new sports car registered under a fake company name. The kind of stupid arrogance that came from thinking you were untouchable. Logan was nearly ready. The final piece? He needed a lawyer who could destroy them without mercy. Through Ben's network, he found one. Cassandra Vale, a battle-hardened attorney who had torn apart bigger sharks than Brett Holloway. They met in a dim, polished office, walls lined with degrees and photos of courtroom victories. You are not here to play nice, are you? Cassandra asked after hearing Logan's story. No, Logan said simply. I am here to win. Cassandra smiled, the kind of smile that promised bloodshed. Then let us burn them to the ground. Days stretched into a taut, razor-thin wire of patience. Logan went through the motions, living inside a house full of lies, breathing the same air as the woman who thought she had broken him. Each morning he kissed Caleb goodbye at school, helped with homework in the evening, and tucked him into bed at night with a story. The boy was innocent. He did not ask to be born into a lie. Logan had already decided. No matter what the DNA said, Caleb was his son, blood or not. Meanwhile, the legal machine churned behind the scenes. Cassandra worked quietly but relentlessly, filing the paternity fraud lawsuit, preparing the custody case, pulling financial records through every legal channel possible. Logan stayed calm, smiling, patient. Tessa became increasingly erratic. One evening, she cornered Logan in the kitchen, wine glass in hand, eyes wild. You are different, she said, voice slurring slightly. Distant. You are hiding something. Logan chuckled softly, wiping down the counter. Maybe you are just imagining things, he said lightly. Maybe you are hiding something. She stared at him, stunned for a second, like a deer caught in headlights. Then she laughed, too high, too fake. You are crazy. Maybe. Or maybe he had already won, and she just did not know it yet. Logan looked at her, really looked. The woman he had once loved now just a shell wrapped in lies and greed. He turned off the light and walked past her without another word, leaving Tessa alone in the dark kitchen, clutching her empty glass like a drowning woman holding onto a stone. The countdown had already started, and there was no way she could run far enough to escape the blast. Sunday dinners had always been sacred in the Price house. But tonight, the air was different. Tessa picked at her food, barely eating, glancing at her phone every few minutes. Her fingers trembled when she thought no one was watching. Caleb babbled happily about his school art project, showing Logan a crooked painting of a green dragon. Logan smiled warmly and ruffled the boy's hair, keeping his eyes off Tessa, making her sweat in her own guilt. After dinner, Tessa stood at the sink, scrubbing dishes furiously. Logan leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, voice casual. So, who was texting you during dinner? Tessa's hands froze under the water. For half a second, her back stiffened. Just work, she said too fast. Work on a Sunday? Logan asked, eyebrow raised. Tessa turned, forcing a laugh. You know how it is. Clients do not care about weekends. Logan nodded slowly, his gaze sharp as a blade. I guess, he said, pushing off the doorframe. Good thing you are so good at pretending. Tessa blinked. Pretending what? Logan smiled without warmth. Being busy. He walked away without giving her a chance to answer, leaving her standing there, dripping dishwater onto the floor, heart racing. She was cracking. Logan could see it in every twitch of her fingers, every dart of her eyes. And soon, when the weight of her own lies collapsed, it would be glorious. The next phase required precision. Logan spent days preparing paperwork through Cassandra, financial subpoenas, witness affidavits, guardianship petitions. Everything had to be airtight. Meanwhile, Ben hacked deeper, finding emails between Brett and shady city officials, kickbacks, fake claims, hidden accounts offshore. This was bigger than just infidelity. It was a full criminal enterprise. Late one night, Logan sat alone in the garage, a single bare bulb swinging above him, reviewing every piece of evidence spread across the workbench. Photos of Tessa and Brett at hotels, bank statements showing stolen funds, the DNA test. Each piece was a bullet, each one aimed at their future. He recorded a final insurance policy, a full video explaining everything, with timestamps, dates, and facts, ready to be leaked publicly if anything happened to him. Logan had learned the hard way in war. Trust no one completely. Plan for betrayal. Always leave yourself a way to strike back. The next morning, Logan watched Tessa pull away from the house, her taillights disappearing down the street. He slipped back inside, into her home office. Quiet. Efficient. He planted a small recording device behind the decorative vase on her desk, a direct line into every secret conversation she thought she was having in private. By the time Tessa realized she was trapped, it would already be too late. Logan stepped outside, feeling the crisp morning air bite his skin. The war was almost over. It was time to make them bleed. Logan waited until the perfect moment. He came home early one afternoon, pretending to be limping from a twisted ankle at the gym. Tessa's eyes widened when he stumbled through the door. "Are you okay?" she gasped, rushing toward him. Logan let her fuss over him, leaning on her shoulder, pretending vulnerability. He needed her off balance, needed her to lower her guard. That night, as Tessa texted furiously on her burner phone, Logan sat on the porch with Caleb, helping him build a Lego castle. Caleb looked up, blue eyes wide. "Mommy says we are moving soon." "Are we moving, Daddy?" Logan's chest squeezed tight, but he smiled calmly. "Maybe," he said. "Maybe we will go somewhere better." Inside the house, Tessa's voice drifted through the open window, angry and sharp. "We have to move up the plan. He is suspicious." Brett's voice replied, crackling from the burner phone speaker. "Fine. Drain the accounts tomorrow. We will disappear by Friday." Logan's fingers tightened around a tiny Lego piece until it snapped. Perfect. He stood up, scooped Caleb into his arms, and carried him inside with steady steps. By the time Tessa hung up and turned around, Logan was already there, smiling at her like a man who knew everything. "Everything okay?" he asked lightly. She flinched. "Just barely." "Yeah," she lied. Logan kissed her forehead and whispered, "Good. I would hate for anything to be wrong." Behind his calm eyes, the storm was already roaring. By Friday, Tessa and Brett's world would not just fall apart, it would burn to ash. Friday morning arrived, thick with tension. Tessa moved through the house like a nervous cat, checking her phone constantly, snapping at Caleb for small things, glancing out the window every few minutes. Logan watched it all in silence, sipping coffee at the kitchen counter. He had already moved his most important possessions, military documents, personal items, Caleb's school records, to Ben's secure location. Everything he cared about was already safe. Tessa thought she was playing him. She had no idea the game had ended before it even began. At noon, Logan kissed Caleb goodbye at the school gate, knelt down, and whispered into his ear, "Be brave today, buddy. Everything is going to be okay." Caleb grinned, trusting, and ran inside. Logan climbed into his truck, heart pounding, hands steady. He dialed Cassandra. "Launch it," he said simply. By 2 o'clock, Tessa's world started unraveling. Bank alerts flooded her phone, frozen accounts, flagged transactions, legal holds. At the same time, Ben remotely wiped her burner phone, replacing her secret files with screenshots of every crime she had committed, leaked directly to her cloud backup. When Tessa checked her messages, she screamed. Logan listened from the porch, the sound sweet as a symphony. She stormed outside, wild-eyed, shoving the phone into his chest. What the hell is happening, Logan? My accounts, my money. He looked at her with a calm, pitying gaze. You should be careful who you trust, Tess. She paled. What did you do? Logan smiled slowly. I just made sure you would pay for everything you ever stole. Behind her, sirens wailed in the distance. Tessa turned to look, her face draining of blood as two unmarked police cars screeched into the driveway. Logan leaned against the porch railing, arms crossed. Good luck explaining all that, he said. Tessa's mouth opened in a silent scream as officers stormed toward her. Logan closed his eyes, breathing deep. Phase 1, complete. Tessa screamed, fought, cried, but the evidence was airtight. Officers found everything: burner phones, fake accounts, documents linking her directly to Brett's fraud operations. Brett tried to vanish the same afternoon. He almost succeeded, slipping out of town with a duffel bag full of cash, driving a beat-up rental car under a fake name. Almost. Ben's team intercepted him 2 towns over. Brett was dragged out of the car at a gas station, cuffed on the spot, cash spilling across the pavement. Logan watched the footage later that night, a glass of whiskey in hand, the screen glowing in the dark room. Brett shouting, I want a lawyer. Ben's men silent, professional. Logan toasted the screen with a bitter smile. Both of them. Caught. Meanwhile, Cassandra filed emergency motions in family court, pushing forward the paternity fraud suit and full custody petition. The judge, a no-nonsense war veteran himself, did not take kindly to Logan's military sacrifice being used as a cover for years of deception. I find no reason why Mr. Price should not be granted immediate sole custody, the judge ruled within 2 days. Pending full trial, the child remains in his care. Tessa's lawyer barely tried to argue. She was radioactive now, a fraudster facing criminal charges and public shame. When Logan picked up Caleb from school that afternoon, he knelt in the sun-dappled courtyard, arms wide. Caleb sprinted toward him, laughing. Logan hugged him tight, tears burning behind his eyes. No matter what happened now, Caleb was safe. Tessa and Brett had lost everything. But Logan was not done yet. Not even close. There was still one final reckoning to come. Saturday night fell cold and clear over Denver. Logan sat alone on the back porch, staring up at the stars. Everything he had worked for, months of pretending, gathering, planning, had led to this moment. He should have felt victorious. Instead, he felt something deeper, something colder. Justice was not about feeling good. It was about setting things right. Inside, Caleb slept peacefully, unaware of the storm his so-called mother had unleashed. Logan took a slow sip of coffee and checked his watch. Time. He made the final calls. Ben confirmed the media packages were ready. Evidence files, recorded conversations, financial fraud summaries, all scheduled for automatic release. At dawn, newspapers, blogs, local TV stations, and even national outlets would get the full story. Tessa Holloway, cheater, fraudster, criminal. Brett Holloway, con artist, felon, homewrecker. Their faces, their lies, their crimes, all laid bare for the world to see. No more hiding, no more pretending. When the sun rose, there would be no corner dark enough for them to crawl into. Logan stood up, feeling the cool night wind whip against his face. He whispered into the darkness, almost like a prayer. You took my loyalty, my love, my family. Now I am taking your future. And he meant every word. Sunday morning shattered the city's peace. News trucks lined the Price's street like vultures circling a dying animal. Logan stood at the living room window, arms crossed, watching them pile up. Cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions at empty air. The headlines hit hard and fast. Local couple accused of million-dollar fraud scheme. Veteran betrayed by wife, fights back. Child custody battle exposes shocking web of lies. Photos of Tessa and Brett, smirking, laughing, kissing behind cheap motel doors, were plastered across every local channel, every gossip blog, every social media feed. Inside the jail, Tessa's screams reportedly echoed down the halls when she saw the morning news. Brett tried to make a statement, blaming everything on Tessa, but the evidence buried them both. Wire transfers, fake insurance policies, recorded confessions. There was no way out. Ben called that afternoon, voice amused. They are cooked, brother. Full media roast. The feds are sniffing around, too. Logan thanked him quietly. It was not satisfaction he felt. It was finality. He had warned Tessa the day he married her. Loyalty meant everything. She had gambled it away for cash and a cheap thrill. Now the whole world knew who she really was. Logan turned from the window and walked back to Caleb, who sat cross-legged on the floor, building a Lego spaceship. "Want to help me, Daddy?" Caleb asked, holding up a block. Logan knelt down, smiling warmly. "There is nothing I would rather do." Outside, the storm raged. Inside, they built something new, brick by brick. The fallout spread faster than anyone predicted. Brett's insurance license was stripped within 48 hours. Tessa's real estate firm fired her the same afternoon the scandal broke, releasing a cold, one-sentence statement distancing themselves from her. Former friends who used to crowd their backyard for barbecues now deleted her number from their phones like she was a virus. Neighbors whispered behind curtains. Mothers pulled their children away at the park. Tessa was radioactive. And the money? Gone. The courts froze her assets, seized her accounts, and placed heavy liens on every property she touched. Brett fared no better. Old victims of his schemes surfaced, lawsuits piling up, federal investigations breathing down his neck. The wolves were no longer at the door. They were inside the house, tearing it apart. Logan stayed silent through it all. He did not need to gloat. The truth was enough. One evening, Cassandra called him after a long day in court. "They offered a deal," she said. "Tessa wants to sign full parental rights over to you. No contest." Logan sat in his truck outside Caleb's karate class, watching his boy kick a padded bag with fierce determination. "She giving up that easy?" he asked quietly. "She knows she has no chance," Cassandra said. "No judge would trust her with a goldfish now, let alone a child." Logan closed his eyes for a moment, breathing in the bittersweet victory. "Do it," he said. "End it." Across the parking lot, Caleb waved at him excitedly, grinning. Logan smiled back, the knot in his chest loosening slightly. Justice had been served. But something deeper still burned. It was not enough just to win. He wanted the world to remember. Logan planned the last strike with the same precision he once used on covert missions overseas. It would not be loud. It would not be violent. It would be permanent. 2 weeks after Tessa signed away her rights, Logan leaked a final set of files to the authorities. Names, dates, photos linking Brett and Tessa to an even larger fraud ring that had operated under their noses for years. Federal charges dropped like hammers. New warrants issued. New lawsuits opened. Even Brett's slimy lawyer abandoned him, citing ethical concerns. Tessa, stripped of everything, was left standing alone in court. No husband, no lover, no money, no future. When Logan appeared for the final custody hearing, he wore his full army dress uniform. Clean, sharp, unbreakable. The judge's ruling was swift. Logan Price is granted sole legal and physical custody. Tessa Holloway is permanently stripped of all parental rights. Tessa sobbed silently at the defendant's table, head bowed, shackled by choices she could never undo. Logan did not even glance at her. He knelt beside Caleb outside the courthouse steps, lifting him into his arms. "What does this mean, Daddy?" Caleb asked softly. Logan hugged him close, whispering against his hair. "It means you are finally safe." And this time, it was true. Logan walked away from the ruins of his old life, not as a broken man, but as a father who had fought a war nobody else saw. And won. The house felt different now. Quieter. Lighter. Logan walked through each room, stripping away the last traces of the life he thought he had. Wedding photos burned in the fire pit out back, love notes shredded and trashed, false memories erased with every sweep of his hand. Tessa's perfume no longer lingered in the halls. Her lies no longer poisoned the walls. For the first time in years, the house felt like his home again, not a battlefield. Caleb ran through the living room, chasing their golden retriever, Scout, laughter echoing off the walls. Logan smiled, tightening the last bolt on a new bunk bed they had built together. Fresh paint coated the walls, navy blue and silver, Caleb's favorite colors. The past was not forgotten, but it no longer owned them. Still, Logan knew healing was not automatic. Some nights he sat awake on the porch, whiskey glass sweating in his hand, staring into the blackness. Memories crept up, the betrayal, the humiliation, the weight of what he had survived. But every morning, Caleb's smile anchored him back to reality. "You are my hero, Daddy," Caleb said one evening, snuggling close after a bedtime story. Logan ruffled his hair, voice thick. "No, buddy, you are mine." Outside, the world whispered about Tessa's downfall, about Brett's upcoming federal trial. Logan did not care anymore. Their punishment was inevitable. His focus was here, rebuilding something real, one day at a time. Despite everything, the past had a way of clawing back. 3 weeks after the final court hearing, a letter arrived, no return address. Logan tore it open on the porch, heart kicking harder than he expected. It was from Tessa. The handwriting was shaky, desperate. "Logan, please. I made mistakes. I was scared. I did not mean to lose everything. Caleb needs his mother. I know you hate me, but he deserves both of us. Please think about it. I will do anything. Please." Logan read the letter twice, feeling nothing but a cold detachment. It was not guilt he felt. It was clarity. Tessa had not written because she loved Caleb. She had written because she had lost. He folded the letter carefully and lit a match. The paper curled black and burned to nothing on the porch rail. Some bridges were never meant to be rebuilt. Later that night, Logan sat with Caleb under the stars, pointing out constellations. "Can we always live here, Daddy?" Caleb asked sleepily. Logan smiled, wrapping an arm around his boy's small shoulders. "Always," he promised. And this time, there were no lies. The calm settled in slowly, like dust after a battlefield clears. Logan enrolled Caleb in a better school, one with strong teachers and wide-open playgrounds. He started a new job, private security consulting, flexible hours, good pay, and most importantly, time to be a father. They built routines, breakfasts full of laughter, bedtimes full of whispered promises. Piece by piece, Logan stitched together a new life, one that Tessa and Brett could never poison. But he knew peace was never permanent, not in his world. One evening, Ben showed up unannounced, knocking twice before stepping onto the porch with a grim expression. Logan poured 2 beers without asking. "What is it?" Logan asked, sliding a bottle across the table. Ben hesitated, then pulled out a flash drive and slid it across the table. "Something you need to see." Logan plugged it into his laptop, the screen flickering to life. Photos, emails, a new set of names. Corruption, fraud. Not just Brett and Tessa, but bigger players. Higher up, ones who had never faced exposure. Logan stared at the screen, blood icing over. He thought the war was over. He was wrong. He had only killed the foot soldiers. The generals were still out there, and they had just realized someone had survived their little empire's collapse. Logan leaned back in his chair, staring into the night sky. Peace was not coming. Not yet. And he was ready. The flash drive Ben handed over was a bomb. Logan sat alone in his darkened living room, the laptop's glow painting his face in cold light. Photo after photo. Transaction records. Bribes. Blackmail notes. Not just Brett and Tessa. City council members. Police officers. A judge, the very one who signed off on Brett's fraudulent insurance settlements. And at the center of it all, grinning like a viper, was a name Logan knew too well. Elliot Harrow, Tessa's boss from her old real estate agency. The man who had sent them condolence flowers after Logan's first deployment. The man who always smiled too much, talked too slick. Logan's stomach twisted. Elliot was not just a bystander. He had engineered the whole thing, guiding Brett and Tessa into the fraud ring, laundering the money through fake real estate deals, paying off officials to bury investigations. And now that Logan had cracked open the first layer, Elliot would not let it slide. Ben leaned forward, voice low. He will come after you. Quietly at first, then not so quietly. Logan sat back, hands steepled under his chin. It was not over. It had never been just about love or betrayal. It was about power, control, and now, survival. He looked at Caleb's sleeping form on the couch, clutching a toy spaceship in his arms. Logan's jaw tightened. I started a war without even knowing it, Logan said quietly. Ben nodded grimly. And now you have to finish it. The next week turned heavy. Logan noticed the car first, a black sedan parked a little too far down the block, engine idling too long. Then the strange phone calls, numbers that hung up the second he answered. Subtle, professional, but Logan had spent years in war zones. He knew surveillance when he saw it. He installed new security cameras around the house, reinforced the locks, mapped out escape routes with Caleb in case of emergency. Ben even stationed an unmarked security team nearby, rotating shifts, blending in. It was not paranoia. It was preparation. One night, while taking out the trash, Logan spotted a man crouched near the mailbox, fumbling with a small black device. Without thinking, Logan moved fast. He pinned the guy against the fence in 3 seconds flat, arm twisted behind his back. Who sent you? Logan hissed into his ear. The man said nothing, just laughed, low and mocking. You made enemies, soldier, he sneered. Big ones. Logan shoved him down, taking the device, a GPS tracker, blinking softly. The man bolted into the night. Logan watched him go, breathing hard. This was not just about protecting Caleb anymore. This was about striking first, about finishing what Tessa and Brett had started, and what bigger monsters had been feeding off for years. He looked down at the blinking tracker in his palm. You want to find me? He muttered. Good. I am tired of hiding. Logan did not wait for the next move. At dawn, he loaded Caleb into the truck, a small duffel packed with essentials, just enough to disappear for a few days. He drove 2 hours out of Denver to a secluded cabin Ben had secured, off-grid, safe, buried deep in pine forests. Inside, Caleb played with Scout by the fireplace while Logan and Ben spread maps and laptops across the rough wooden table. Ben pointed to a highlighted name list. Every asset Harrow has. Every crooked cop. Every shell company. We hit them all at once. Logan studied the list, rage simmering low and controlled in his chest. This was not about petty revenge anymore. It was about tearing the whole rot out by the roots. He tapped one name, a shady law firm laundering money through fake charities. Start there, he said. Ben grinned. Thought you would say that. Over the next 3 hours, they planned it all. Data leaks, anonymous whistleblower tips, public document dumps. Logan would not just survive. He would turn Elliot Harrow into public enemy #1. By the time the media and feds were done with him, Elliot would wish he had stayed in the shadows. Logan knelt down beside Caleb before nightfall, tucking the boy into a soft cabin bed. Caleb yawned. Are we safe, Daddy? Logan kissed his forehead, voice firm. We will be. I promise. And for the first time, Logan was not just making a promise to Caleb. He was making a vow to himself. This was not about survival anymore. This was about annihilation. The first hit came at dawn. From the safety of the cabin, Logan watched the news roll in on his encrypted laptop. An anonymous leak, courtesy of Ben, exposed one of Elliot Harrow's biggest shell charities as a front for laundering dirty money. The story spread like wildfire. By noon, reporters were camping outside Elliot's sleek glass office downtown. By sunset, federal auditors were knocking on his door. Logan leaned back in his chair, sipping black coffee, watching it all unfold with a grim satisfaction. Inside the cabin, Caleb painted at the kitchen table, Scout curled up at his feet. The normalcy of the moment grounded Logan, a reminder of why he fought. Later that evening, Ben arrived with new intel, tracking mud across the cabin floor. "We stirred up the hornet's nest," he said, tossing a folder onto the table. Inside were photos. Elliot meeting with two known dirty cops. Cash changing hands. Surveillance from a hidden camera Ben's team had planted weeks ago. "Next target?" Ben asked. Logan smiled coldly, tapping the photos. "We go after his protection. Cut off his shield." He glanced at Caleb, who was busy concentrating on a crooked watercolor painting of a rocket ship. Everything they were doing was for him. For the future. Logan closed the laptop, feeling a new energy surge through his veins. He was not running anymore. He was hunting. And this time, he was going to finish it properly. The night was heavy with the smell of pine and damp earth as Logan and Ben drove back toward the city. Low profile. No mistakes. Ben parked 2 streets over from a luxury condo building, Elliot's prized hideout for his corrupt allies. Logan scoped the building carefully. Blacked-out SUVs, security guards loitering too casually near the doors, cameras sweeping lazily across the sidewalks. Good. Predictable. Ben grinned in the darkness. Old-school arrogance. They think cash buys invisibility. Logan adjusted the earpiece and checked his gear. A small flash drive loaded with timed data dumps, a high-range camera to catch the dirt they needed. "Ready?" Ben asked. Logan nodded once. They moved like shadows, slipping into an unsecured service entrance, bypassing sloppy security systems Elliot's men had neglected in their greed. Within minutes, Logan planted the devices. Ben secured hard drives from abandoned offices. Evidence of backdoor deals, property scams, bribery trails. When they slipped out, Logan felt a grim satisfaction rising in his chest. Within 24 hours, those drives would leak to the authorities, timed perfectly with the charity fraud scandal already breaking. One more pillar of Elliot's empire collapsing. Back at the truck, Ben chuckled under his breath. "You ever think you missed your true calling?" Logan cracked a rare smile. "I did not miss it. I just postponed it." They drove back to the cabin under a velvet sky full of stars, the mission complete. Tomorrow, the cracks would widen, and Elliot Harrow would feel the floor crumbling beneath him. By midday the next day, Logan's phone buzzed violently against the wooden table. Ben's voice came sharp and fast. "He is running." Logan opened the laptop, fingers flying over the keyboard. Security footage showed Elliot in full retreat, boarding a private jet at a small airfield outside the city, flanked by bodyguards, carrying a steel briefcase. "Where is he going?" Logan demanded. "Mexico, we think. Offshore accounts. New identity." Logan slammed his palm against the table, rattling Caleb's crayons. He had expected Elliot to fight. He had not expected him to flee so fast. Ben's voice cut through the frustration. "We can still stop him." Logan exhaled slowly, thinking fast. If Elliot escaped, the bigger network would survive. If Elliot went down now, the entire house of cards would fall. He stood, heart pounding, already pulling on his jacket. "Get the car," Logan said. "We have one shot at this." Caleb looked up from his drawing, sensing the urgency. "Daddy," he asked, voice small. Logan crouched, meeting his eyes. "I have to do something important, buddy. Ben will stay with you." Caleb nodded bravely, trusting him without hesitation. Logan hugged him tightly, maybe tighter than necessary, then rose, steel filling his blood. It was no longer about revenge. It was about justice. And Logan Price had no intention of letting monsters like Elliot Harrow slither away into the dark. Not while he was still breathing. The old pickup's engine roared as Logan gunned it down the back roads leading to the private airfield. Pine trees blurred past in a green-gray smear. The late afternoon sun cut low across the hills, throwing long, chasing shadows across the cracked asphalt. Ben's voice came through the earpiece, tight with urgency. "Private jet is still grounded. Flight plan is bogus. He is trying to slip under the radar. How much time do I have?" Logan asked, shifting gears hard around a bend. 20 minutes, maybe less. Logan's grip tightened on the steering wheel. He pressed harder on the gas, heart hammering. This was it. No second chances. As he approached the airfield, Logan slowed, surveying the perimeter. Security was light. One rent-a-cop posted lazily at the gate, scrolling through his phone. Good. Logan pulled the truck off the road, parking behind a stand of trees. He grabbed the small backpack from the passenger's seat. Lockpicks, a stun baton, a burner phone. No gun. Not yet. This was not about blood. It was about justice. He moved quickly through the scrub, boots silent on the dry dirt. The plane was still there, a sleek white Gulfstream, engines idling hungrily. Elliot stood near the stairs, barking orders into his phone, pacing like a man who knew time was his enemy. Logan crouched low, heart steady, mind sharp. 20 minutes. Maybe less. Time to end this. Logan moved like a shadow through the chain-link fence, cutting a clean hole near the back entrance. The rent-a-cop never saw him, too busy arguing with someone over a Bluetooth headset. Logan slid between hangars, slipping closer to the plane. 10 yards out, he spotted two men in black suits, Elliot's private security. They were armed and alert. Logan crouched behind a fuel truck, weighing his options. Ben's voice crackled in his ear. Backup is 20 minutes out. You are on your own. Would not be the first time, Logan muttered under his breath. Timing would be everything. He waited, breath slow, watching the rhythm of their patrol. 3 beats. A pause. 3 beats. When the first guard turned, Logan moved. Fast. He slammed the stun baton into the guard's neck. The man convulsed and dropped silently to the tarmac. Before the second guard could react, Logan charged, sweeping his legs out and pinning him with a brutal knee to the ribs. The man gasped, trying to shout. Logan pressed the stun baton against his temple. Silence. Seconds later, both guards were zip-tied behind the fuel truck, unconscious. Logan adjusted his jacket, wiped the sweat from his brow, and approached the plane's stairs, boots echoing sharply now in the fading light. Elliot turned, phone still pressed to his ear, and froze. Recognition flickered across his face. Logan smiled grimly. Going somewhere, Elliot? Elliot dropped the phone, eyes darting like a trapped animal. No way out, Logan said calmly. Not this time. For a second, neither man moved. Elliot's hand twitched toward his jacket, the telltale bulge of a concealed pistol. Logan saw it coming. He closed the distance in a heartbeat, grabbing Elliot's wrist and wrenching it upward. The gun skittered across the tarmac, spinning into the dark. Elliot grunted, trying to swing, but Logan was faster, driven by months of betrayal, rage, and cold, burning purpose. He slammed Elliot against the side of the plane, one forearm crushing against his throat. You set them up, Logan growled. You dragged my family into your filth. You made them pawns. Elliot gasped, face turning red. It was just business. Logan leaned in closer, his voice deadly soft. You destroyed lives for business. He loosened his grip just enough for Elliot to cough and gasp. I can pay you. Elliot wheezed. Triple what they offered you. Walk away, Logan. Nobody has to know. Logan's laugh was low and humorless. I am not for sale. He pulled out the burner phone, holding it up where Elliot could see the live call recording, transmitting everything directly to a secure server and to Ben. You just confessed to conspiracy, bribery, racketeering, and obstruction. Elliot's face collapsed in horror. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting louder. Logan stepped back, releasing him. By the way, Logan said casually, the feds are on their way. Hope you packed a toothbrush. Elliot sagged against the plane, defeated, trapped, exposed. Logan watched him for a long, silent moment. Then he turned and walked away, the red-blue lights slicing through the night behind him. Logan watched from a distance as federal agents stormed the airfield. They cuffed Elliot roughly, reading him his rights as he shouted curses into the night. Ben pulled up beside Logan's truck, a proud grin tugging at his scarred face. You did it. he said, clapping Logan's shoulder. You took them all down. Logan nodded slowly, watching the flashing lights disappear down the road. It did not feel like victory. It felt like breathing after drowning. I could not have done it without you, Logan said. Ben shrugged. You would have found a way. You always do. They drove back to the cabin under a sky lit by 1,000 stars. When Logan walked through the door, Caleb ran into his arms, laughing, babbling about building a new Lego city. Logan hugged him tight, feeling the world right itself in his chest. Tomorrow, there would be trials, headlines, interviews. But tonight, there was only peace. He knelt with Caleb on the floor, stacking bright plastic bricks, building something sturdy, something real. And for the first time in a long time, Logan Price allowed himself to smile without pain. He had not just survived. He had won. The courthouse was packed. Reporters lined the steps, shouting questions, flashes popping like 1,000 tiny explosions. Inside, the air was thick with tension, the kind that buzzes under your skin. Logan sat in the front row, dressed sharp, unmoving. Across the aisle, Elliot Harrow looked like a ghost. No designer suit could hide the sweat pooling under his collar, the hollow look in his eyes. The judge entered, a no-nonsense federal veteran who did not suffer fools. All rise. Logan stood, heart steady. The charges were read aloud. Conspiracy, racketeering, fraud, obstruction of justice. The list seemed endless. When the prosecutor laid out the evidence, the surveillance, the financial trails, the confession Logan had recorded, the entire courtroom sat in stunned silence. Elliot's high-priced lawyers tried every dirty trick in the book. Blame shifting, technicalities, character assassinations. None of it worked. Logan watched without blinking as the truth crushed every lie under its boots. After a grueling 3-week trial, the jury returned the verdict in less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Elliot slumped forward like the life had been sucked out of him. Logan closed his eyes, breathing out the last shred of the war inside him. Justice. Real, final, undeniable. The judge's voice rang clear. You preyed on honest men and women. You corrupted a system meant to protect. You betrayed trust at every level. You are hereby sentenced to 35 years in federal prison without parole. The gavel cracked down. It was done. Logan walked out of the courthouse into the bright afternoon sun, free at last. Victory did not erase scars. Some nights, Logan still woke up sweating, the past clawing at the edges of his mind. Visions of betrayal, of Caleb calling another man daddy, of Tessa's hollow lies dripping into his ears. But those nights grew fewer. Each morning, he found Caleb curled up safely in his bed, Scouts snoring at his feet. Each morning, he made breakfast, packed school lunches, helped with science projects. Slowly, life threaded itself back together. He attended therapy sessions, working through the rubble of emotions he had buried during deployments, during betrayal, during the fight for justice. One afternoon, as they sat on the porch watching a thunderstorm roll over the hills, Caleb leaned against him and whispered, "You are the best daddy in the world." Logan hugged him tightly, blinking against the sting in his eyes. "Not perfect," he said hoarsely, "but I am trying." Caleb nodded seriously, as if sealing a contract. And for the first time, Logan truly believed they were going to be okay. Spring bloomed across Colorado like a promise. Logan found a new house, a cozy ranch on the outskirts of town, surrounded by rolling fields and towering cottonwood trees. Fresh start, fresh memories. He built a wooden swing set for Caleb in the backyard, spending hours under the sun with a hammer and nails and a stubborn determination to create something good. Neighbors were different here, friendly, honest people who brought casseroles and handshakes, not secrets and fake smiles. Caleb thrived at his new school, winning a science fair ribbon, joining a little league team. Life moved forward, not perfect, not easy, but real. One evening, after tucking Caleb into bed, Logan stood on the back porch, sipping coffee, watching the stars spark against the velvet sky. Ben's words echoed in his mind. You survive because you are too damn stubborn to quit. He smiled quietly to himself. Maybe that was true, but he had not survived just to exist. He had survived to build something better, not just for himself, but for the boy who had saved him without even knowing it. And he was just getting started. 6 months later, Logan stood in front of a small crowd at a community center, nerves buzzing low in his gut. The local veterans group had asked him to speak about resilience, about rebuilding, about not letting betrayal define your future. He looked out at the audience, soldiers with haunted eyes, teenagers fighting their own battles, mothers holding babies on their hips, people who had lost things, people who were still fighting. He cleared his throat, voice steady. I lost everything I thought I needed, he said. Family, friends, trust. He paused, feeling the weight of the truth. But what I built after that was stronger, real, untouchable. He looked down at Caleb in the front row, sitting proudly, beaming. You are not broken because you were betrayed. You are stronger because you survived it. The applause was not thunderous, it was real, warm, healing. Later, a young man came up to him, tears shining in his eyes. Thank you, sir. I needed that more than you know. Logan clapped him on the shoulder. You are not alone, he said. None of us are. That night, back at their little house, Logan tucked Caleb into bed and sat by the window, staring out at the endless, open sky. He had turned pain into power, loss into legacy, and tomorrow would be even better. Because for the first time, Logan Price was not just surviving. He was living. The past had a way of whispering even when you tried to bury it. One Saturday afternoon, Logan took Caleb hiking in the foothills, the air crisp with pine and earth. They climbed slowly, Caleb chattering excitedly about spaceships and dinosaurs, the dog bounding ahead. At the summit, Logan sat on a worn rock, staring out over the endless valley below. It was peaceful, but the peace was fragile. A woman approached, middle-aged, cautious smile, clipboard in hand. She was a journalist from a local magazine doing a piece on veterans rebuilding after trauma. I heard your story, she said. What you survived, it gives people hope. Logan's instinct was to walk away. He hated the idea of being a headline. But he saw Caleb, crouched nearby building a small cairn of stones, strong, innocent, untouched by the darkness they had escaped. And he thought maybe it was time. Time to own the story. Time to control the narrative. He gave a slow nod. Okay, he said, but the story is not about me. The journalist smiled gently. No, it is about what you built afterward. For the first time in years, Logan felt the old walls crack. Not from weakness, but from choosing to let the light in. The article published 3 weeks later. It was not sensational. It was respectful, honest. It painted Logan not as a victim, but as a fighter, a man who had seen the worst and still chosen to stand tall. Requests started flooding in. Veteran groups asked him to speak. Counselors asked him to mentor others. Old friends he had thought long gone sent messages of respect and support. At first, Logan hesitated. Opening yourself up meant vulnerability, a risk he had trained his whole life to avoid. But Caleb's proud smile, whenever Logan's name was mentioned in the paper, made the decision easier. They started small, community events, school talks, quiet coffee shop meetings with struggling soldiers. Logan found that giving back healed wounds he had never even realized were still bleeding. The past did not disappear, but it no longer chained him. Each step forward was a choice, and every choice made the future stronger. One evening, while preparing dinner, Logan's phone buzzed with a number he did not recognize. He almost ignored it. Something in his gut said otherwise. He answered. Logan, a soft, broken voice whispered. Tessa. He froze, the knife hovering above the cutting board. I heard about what you did, how you turned it all around. I just needed to say, I am sorry. Logan closed his eyes, the old wounds flickering alive for a moment. I am not the man you left behind, Tessa, he said quietly. I know, she choked out. I am not asking for anything. I just, I just wanted you to know I was wrong." Silence stretched long and thin. Then Logan spoke, voice steady. "I forgave you a long time ago, but that does not mean you get a place in our lives." Tessa sobbed softly. "I understand." He hung up without anger, without regret. Then he turned back to Caleb, who was setting the table, humming off key. The past had tried one last time to pull him back, and he had chosen, firmly, finally, to walk forward. Months passed. Caleb grew taller, stronger, his laughter filling every corner of their home. Logan built his consulting business steadily, helping veterans reintegrate into civilian life, advising law enforcement on tactical strategy, even teaching kids self-defense classes on weekends. He found meaning not in revenge or survival anymore, but in building, in teaching, in healing. One afternoon, Caleb won his school's citizenship award, recognized for kindness, leadership, and courage. Logan sat in the crowded auditorium, heart swelling with pride as Caleb accepted his little plaque, grinning ear to ear. When they got home, Caleb hugged him fiercely. "I could not have done it without you, Daddy." Logan knelt, looking his son in the eye. "You did this. You made this life. I am just lucky enough to watch you grow." That night, sitting on the porch under a sky burning with stars, Logan finally understood something deep in his bones. Strength was not about fighting battles. It was about choosing to live, really live, after the war ended. And he had won, in every way that mattered. The invitation arrived on a crisp autumn morning. A heavy envelope, embossed with silver lettering, sat in the mailbox among junk flyers and bills. Logan tore it open carefully, his curiosity piqued. Inside was a simple card: Veterans Leadership Conference. Keynote speaker, Logan Price. He stared at it for a long moment, heart pounding. They wanted him, not as a broken man, not as a victim of betrayal, but as a leader. He thought about turning it down, about staying tucked away in his quiet new life with Caleb and Scout. But then Caleb came bounding down the driveway, clutching a handful of colored leaves, face flushed with excitement. Logan looked at him, at the bright future blooming because he had chosen to fight back, to rebuild, to live. Maybe it was time to share that fight, to help others climb out of their darkness too. He tucked the card into his jacket and smiled. "Big things are coming, buddy," he said, ruffling Caleb's hair. Caleb grinned. "Like dinosaurs?" Logan laughed, a deep, real sound that felt good in his chest. "Maybe even bigger than dinosaurs." And for the first time in a long, long time, the future felt wide open, full of possibilities he was finally ready to chase. Preparing for the conference was like training for a new kind of battle. Logan spent nights after Caleb fell asleep, pacing the living room, practicing speeches that sounded hollow until he found the truth inside them. He did not want to talk about war stories or legal battles or betrayals. He wanted to talk about survival, about forgiveness, about building. On a chilly Saturday, he took Caleb to the local community center where veterans and their families had gathered for a pre-conference meeting. The room buzzed with nervous energy, scarred men and women, broken in body but not in spirit. Logan stood awkwardly near the door until a young woman with a prosthetic leg limped over and stuck out her hand. "Saw your article," she said bluntly. "Gave me hope." Logan shook her hand firmly, humbled. "Thank you," he said simply. Later, while Caleb played in the corner with other kids, Logan sat with the vets, listening to their stories, stories of pain, of loss, but also of stubborn survival. He realized then that speaking was not about impressing anyone. It was about connecting, about reminding everyone that surviving was not just possible, it was powerful. And together, they were stronger than they ever knew. The night of the conference arrived under a blanket of cold November stars. Logan adjusted his tie in the mirror, uncomfortable but determined. Ben clapped him on the shoulder backstage. "You ready to scare some suits?" he teased. Logan smirked, terrified. The auditorium was packed: veterans, families, politicians, reporters. Caleb sat in the front row, tiny legs swinging off the chair, waving excitedly when Logan stepped onto the stage. The lights blinded him for a second. His throat tightened. But then he took a deep breath and began. "I am not a hero," Logan said, voice steady. "I am not a perfect man. I have been broken, betrayed, beaten down." A murmur ran through the crowd, leaning in, listening. "But here is what I learned. Being broken is not the end. It is the beginning." He spoke of betrayal, of rebuilding, of the nights he thought he could not go on, and how one small boy's trust had saved him. He did not hide the ugly parts. He did not pretend to be invincible. He just told the truth. When he finished, there was a long, aching silence. And then the room exploded into applause. Not polite, not forced. Real, raw, alive. Logan smiled through the sting in his eyes, feeling a weight lift from his soul. This was not the end of his story. It was the beginning of something bigger. Life after the conference moved at a different pace. Logan received dozens of invitations, podcasts, interviews, books, nonprofit boards. He accepted only a few. The ones that mattered. The ones where he could make a difference. Every night, after Caleb was asleep, he sat on the porch under the stars, thinking about how far they had come. He had lost everything once. And now? Now he had something no betrayal could ever steal. Self-respect. Peace. A future built on truth and strength. One evening, Ben showed up with 2 beers and a mischievous grin. "So," he said, clinking bottles. "What is next, Mr. Famous?" Logan laughed. "Whatever comes," he said simply. "We can handle it." Caleb burst onto the porch, Scout chasing him, laughter ringing into the night. Logan watched them, heart full. The past was ashes now, and the road ahead was wide, open, and shining, waiting for the next chapter, one they would write together. Months after the conference, life settled into a rhythm that Logan once thought he would never find again. The new house echoed with laughter instead of arguments. Dinner conversations were about science fairs, soccer games, and summer camping trips, not betrayal and survival. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, Logan and Caleb built a treehouse in the big oak behind the house. Scout barked at falling wood scraps, the sun warm on their backs. As Logan hammered the final plank into place, he paused, sweat dripping into his eyes. He looked down at Caleb, who was busy painting crooked stars on the wood. For so long, Logan had fought to survive, clawing through betrayal, heartbreak, and loss. Now he was fighting for something else entirely. Joy, legacy, hope. Later that evening, they sat on the porch again, watching the sun melt into a sea of golden clouds. Caleb leaned against him, half asleep, whispering, "This is the best life, Daddy." Logan smiled softly, brushing a hand over his son's hair. "Yeah, buddy, it really is." Inside the house, photos lined the walls, not of battles lost, but of moments won. School trophies, muddy hiking boots, messy birthday cakes. A life rebuilt, not just from the ruins of betrayal, but with love stronger than anything that had ever tried to break them. Logan knew the past would always be a part of him, but it would never define him. Not anymore. 1 year later, Logan stood under a pavilion at a community event, handing out medals to kids who had finished their first self-defense course. Caleb sat proudly nearby, polishing his tiny instructor badge. Logan shook hands, took photos, gave out pats on the back, but mostly he listened to stories of rebuilding, to quiet victories after long battles, stories like his own. When the event wrapped up, Logan and Caleb walked back to their truck under a sky burning with stars. Caleb looked up at him, serious. "Are you happy now, Daddy?" Logan knelt, resting his forehead against Caleb's. "Happier than I ever thought I could be." They drove home, windows down, singing off-key to old songs. At the driveway, Logan paused, staring at the cozy house glowing warmly in the dark. He had won his war. But more importantly, he had learned the real victory was not revenge. It was choosing to love again, to trust again, to live again. The true lesson of this story: sometimes life will break you. People will betray you in ways you never imagined. But if you refuse to let the darkness define you, if you fight to build something better, you will rise stronger than anything that ever tried to destroy you. Your scars will not be your weakness. They will be your strength. Before you go, tell me, what was the most powerful moment for you in Logan's journey? And where in the world are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. I would love to know. If you enjoyed this epic story, please like, subscribe, and join this amazing community. Your support helps us create even more thrilling, emotional journeys like this one. See you in the next epic revenge and thriller story. Until then, take care of yourself. Stay strong. Stay real.